I'm going to go ahead and get started. Thank you so much for joining me after lunch. I know after lunch it's hard to do anything. I didn't want to come after lunch, but I kind of had to be here. I'm Allison Bartlett. I am the Senior Manager of Disability Programs with HDSA. So that means I do all things disability. So essentially, this talk is just about me and my program. And it was a little awkward when I was asked to be like, just talk about yourself. And I was like, thanks, guys. But this is really important because the HDSA disability program is really awesome, and there's a lot of things that we can do to help families. And then, the language that I'm required to put up.
Did you help create the language?
I did not. Okay, so one of the things I always like to start with is, what is disability? And I ask this question because every time I have this conversation with someone, they literally just tell me it's Social Security disability. I'm like, that is absolutely wrong. Disability refers to how someone with a disabling condition navigates the world, the benefits, and the rights they can access. Disability laws, programs, and circumstances have different definitions of disability. It's your responsibility to understand those definitions. So long-term disability is different from Social Security disability, which is different from disability under the Americans with Disabilities Act. There are so many different definitions. It's not just one thing. And especially when we're talking about something like Huntington's disease, disability isn't a thing. It isn't a financial benefit. It is a way of life. And a lot of the things that the disability program does is to help make sure you live the best quality of life. I know we're all waiting on research to come up with better treatments, to come up with a cure. So in the meantime, my program exists to help you take advantage of all of the things we have in place to make sure you have the best quality of life possible. So what does the disability program do? What are the components of disability? There's a lot. So genetic rights, disability rights, work accommodations, disability insurance and disability benefits, other insurance, health insurance, long-term care, legal planning, financial planning, healthcare decisions. I have resources and things for all of these things. I didn't just throw these words up here. There are resources in all of these areas. So what does that mean? The disability program can help you do a lot. There's a lot of things that we can do, and I want everyone to know this, because every time getting the information out there is always hard. Every time I speak at an education day, someone always comes up and says, I wish I knew about you a year ago. I'm like, I do too. I don't know what else I can do to help, but I promise there are things here, and I'm always happy to help. In a perfect world, this would be the planning process. And I don't have better language. I know in research they're switching to the staging system, and still kind of like with clinical care, we talk about pre-symptomatic, early to mid-stage HD, and late-stage HD. We don't really have a better way to talk about it at this point, so this is the language I am still using. Once we have an updated way to talk about it, I will update it. But in a perfect ideal world, which is not the one we live in, but in a perfect ideal world, excuse me, everyone in the pre-symptomatic or not symptomatic stage, that's the planning stage. That's when people research financial, legal, and disability options. That's when people start paying into insurance benefits, whether it's through their employer or things you get on your own. That's when you start taking care of all of these things. So when you start having HD symptoms, that can be your action stage. That's when you obtain disability benefits, whether it should be employer benefits and Social Security benefits or state benefits, whatever. And then you're finalizing legal and financial documents, because things probably have changed if it was 10 years when you did your pre-symptomatic stuff and now you're at your action stage. We want to do all of this in those time frames, so when you actually get to late stage HD, when you don't have the competency or your loved one doesn't really have the competency or the ability to care for themselves anymore, the benefits are already in place. You're not stressed out about Medicaid. You know that they're in a care facility if that's the option you choose, or you know you have everything set up to care for them at home. You're not trying to get guardianship and paying $10,000 out of pocket. So you can just take care of them. And that's really what we want it to be. And the reality is that is not what the situation is for so many HD families now. Emergency guardianship, getting divorced to get their spouse Medicaid. There's all these complexities in the system. So my goal with the disability program is to empower every single one of you, to empower the HD community so we know how to talk about these things, we know how to ask for these things, and we know how to put the pieces together so so many times in the community, I talk to social workers, families, we're waiting for the train crash to come, I don't want us to have to wait for the train crash to come anymore. I want us to be able to be like, we were able to stop it from happening. And I know that's idealistic, but every little step helps. The more we talk about this, the easier all of these things will become. Bear with me. I've been talking a lot and my body has decided to give up on me. So I either take breaks and drink water or I cough at you. I don't like either of those options, but we're making do. So this is the disability page on HDSA's website. This is where everything starts. There's a lot of amazing resources here. So I just took a screenshot of this, but it includes specific information for Social Security, resource guides, past disability chats, which are webinar recordings, an Ask Allison feature. And I didn't put it on here, but there's an amazing disability blog. The reason I haven't included it yet is because it's currently not working on the website. It just decided to disappear on Tuesday. And I'm like, we have convention. Nobody's going to fix this week. But it's an amazing resource. I don't think you can actually read all of these things, but every single one of these things is a paper resource. Disability booklet, wellness journal. We had some of those on the mission table. I honestly can't remember if they're still there anymore. They might have been scooped up. Infographics, checklists, all these things are resources that anyone can access by just simply going to the disability page. So this is just an overview of a few of the things that I have done. These are all the webinars that live on our YouTube page. You can use the QR code to access it, but I have done 25 webinars that anybody can watch at any given time. And this ranges from how to complete the online Social Security application, how to complete an online appeal, to dealing with JHD, navigating veterans benefits, understanding healthcare decisions. There's a lot. But so what does this all mean? What can disability do for you? One of the main things I do is disability consultations, either answering emails or scheduling phone calls. How I operate is usually I have everyone email me first, and then I will send you a Calendly link so you can schedule a phone call when you are available. Nobody wants to have this conversation. This is not a conversation to have while driving, while at the grocery store, while being distracted. Most of the time I have this conversation, somebody has a loved one or someone else there just to support them through the conversation, especially if it's reached the point that they are symptomatic and they need help writing things down or remembering things. So what do I do in these consultations? A lot of what I do is helping create an action plan. So I talk to you about where you're at in your journey, get your background information, and ask what are your goals for the phone call. It can be insurance planning before predictive testing, what steps to take when you're with your employer about work accommodations, what steps to take when starting the Social Security disability application, considerations for legal planning and decision making, Medicaid asset protection planning. Those are just some examples of conversations I have on a regular basis. And honestly, this whole disability planning process is 100 or 1,000 step process. And I always am like, okay, what are the first 5 steps that we can do today? What are the things that I know I'm going to tell you a lot of information, it may overwhelm you a little bit, but what are these 5 key things that I can make you feel better about and give you a clear direction so you can go do them tomorrow? And this is never a one-time thing. It's not a one and done consultation. You're welcome to email me and call me as many times as you need to for us to get through this process. I tell people regularly you can call me just to complain about Social Security because it just needs to happen sometimes. I'm happy to have those conversations too. Like I still hold years of aggression. I can connect you with other HDSA resources. A lot of people who connect with me are new to this whole process. They may have someone in their family who has it, but they don't know their own status. And so it's not just about disability. I often connect people with our centers of excellence. I will look up what their centers of excellence are in their area, and I will send them the contact information about support groups, contact information for your local social workers, because all of these things work together. And then I help explain why all of these things are important for HD care. I have heard too many times over the course of my career, someone was diagnosed by a primary care provider, there wasn't genetic counseling, they just got the test, they got the results at the supermarket, they were just like, oh yeah, you have HD, there's nothing I can do for you, go on your way. And that's horrible. That is horrible. And those providers don't talk about, while no, unfortunately at this time there is no cure, there are so many things that can still be done for quality of life to manage things so you can work longer, you can live your life better, you can do all of these things with support. But so many physicians don't do that. And that's really devastating to so many individuals, and it can mean they delay care, it can mean they delay access to things that they really need. And I don't want that to happen anymore. The reality is it's probably still going to happen, but we're trying to build up the support network and so people know where they can turn to ask these things. They're like, if I had this bad experience, what can I do now? How can things get better from here? Or what's something I can do differently? Or who can help me navigate this differently? And support system isn't just friends and family. It isn't just neurologists. It isn't just clinical care providers, but it's social workers. And it's also people like lawyers. It's appropriate accountants. It's appropriate financial planners, because when you're talking about something like HD, it becomes really specialized, and you need to make sure you speak with the right people, or that you have people who are willing to educate themselves so they do it correctly. I put the Centers of Excellence slide up, one, to highlight that we have 60 amazing Centers of Excellence in 37 states plus the District of Columbia, but I work with the Centers of Excellence regularly. I have educated many neurologists and other physicians like neuropsychiatrists, PT, OT. I work with them directly. I literally was just talking to a Center of Excellence director this morning about somebody we've been helping and how I can get more involved in my local community, because I don't do enough. I'm like, hey, let's do more stuff, because I'm crazy. And that's now going to live on YouTube forever. Yes. But I also I can't do my work without the Centers of Excellence. And my background is I'm a Social Security disability attorney. So I could never have gotten my clients approved if I didn't have a good relationship with the Centers of Excellence. They didn't understand how Social Security works and what we need to get done. And it's not just Social Security, it's writing work accommodations. It's drafting, it's letters. The number of calls I get for people who they have a patient who ends up getting arrested for something and how to navigate that process, what they can do in that process. Child custody, divorce. And if I know, if it's someone who goes to a Center of Excellence and I have a really good relationship with them, I will always call the social worker and be like, hey, I have a few questions. This patient contacted me about these things. This is a child custody case. Does this person actually have the capacity to be to have their children? What are the things that we can do to work together to make sure their rights are protected, but also the children are protected? And there's just a lot of conversations, but I am a resource to the Center of Excellence too. And I will work with you with your Center of Excellence to make sure things get done. Because I can do things that, because I am an independent third party through HDSA, there are conversations I can have with a neurologist that your Social Security disability attorney cannot. I can tell a neurologist exactly what needs to go in a letter or have certain conversations, but there are things that other people can't do because of their relationship to the case and just how that works. Your Social Security disability attorney can't just be like, hey, neurologist, I need you to write these things, because then that could be perceived as fraud. It could be perceived as the attorney coaching the physician, and Social Security being like, hey, were you actually disabled? What was going on? Things like that. And so those are not conversations that can happen. But I have created resources for neurologists, like sample letters. I work with them to help make your cases stronger, to help them help you in the best way possible. And this is true with the social workers too. I work directly with the Center of Excellence social workers, with the chapter social workers. We talk together all the time. We have an amazing network of 120 social workers between our COEs and our chapters. And so I work with them to train them on basics. So my goal is to train them basic information so they can answer those basic questions for families, to help them navigate those basic processes. I don't expect them to know all the legal if it's a difficult case, just go ahead and send them my way. That's fine. But also helping them create collaborative action plans for families. Because there are certain families or certain individuals who don't have enough of a support system. So then I will have the conversation with the social worker and be like, okay, this is what I can do, this is what you can do, or we will all have a video call together to talk through what the next steps are. So we're using our network and our resources to best help the families. And again, a lot of complex situations come up. something that's come up more recently, like interesting cases with parental consultants, and one of the things I always say is I'm always happy to speak to an attorney directly. If they are willing to speak to me, I'm more than happy to speak to them and provide resources and answer questions about HD. And there are some cases when divorce or child custody is involved, one of the things I like to recommend is neuropsychiatric testing, because the reality is not everyone wants to know their HD status. So what are ways around, you can't force someone to get genetic testing done. Okay, so we take that off the table. What are other ways to make sure this person is safe and competent and nobody's getting injured? Because my goal is I want to protect everyone in the HD I want to protect the HD community, but then, there are also the implications if there are children involved. How do we protect everybody using the legal system and educating the people with the right tools and resources? And that means connecting people with the appropriate specialists. Most attorneys don't know anything about HD, which is why I'm more than happy to have that conversation. And that's true across the board. Attorneys specialize in areas of law, not these specialized conditions. And I get asked all the time for lawyers who have HD experience. You're not going to find that. With Social Security disability, I have found some attorneys that can do that, but in other things like a CPA, an elder law attorney, a criminal law attorney, a family law attorney, they're not going to specialize in a disease. They likely haven't seen Huntington's disease. So what are other questions we can ask? Have you ever worked with a family that has a neurodegenerative condition? Have you ever worked with a family with a chronic disabling condition? How have you managed these things? Because when you're hiring someone like an attorney or a physician, you do have to mesh with them. You do not have to hire the first person you talk to. If you do not mesh with them, move on. That is your right within the system. I'm a horrible attorney because I tell people all the time, if you don't like your attorney, fire them. It is your right. We work for you. We work for you. It's not the other way around. And so if you ever have questions, if you ever have concerns, if you ever want to talk through anything, that is why I have the consultations. That is why I work with the community. One of the big things that I do a lot is I help people with the Social Security disability process, so applications and appeals. And I want to say this, it's really important to connect with me and utilize the HDSA disability resources before you start the application, not after. It also helps, if you do get denied, then reach out before you start the appeal. Because once you submit that paperwork, we can't change what you put in the paperwork. It's really important to know all the things before you submit it. There are so many misconceptions about the Social Security disability application process. People think because you have HD, it's going to be easy. There's no special exceptions for Huntington's disease. Social Security completely misunderstands Huntington's disease. Huntington's disease qualifies for compassionate allowance. That doesn't get flagged most of the time. Social Security has a specific HD listing. It requires marked physical limitations. Most people don't have marked physical limitations when they apply for disability, so you're not really applying for HD, you're applying under neurocognitive decline. These aren't things people know. If you stopped working and you haven't worked in more than 5 years, your Social Security disability credits have expired and you are no longer eligible for Social Security benefits. There are things that can be done if you already have your HD diagnosis and you've been getting care, but if your credits expire and then you get diagnosed with HD, you're never going to get SSDI benefits. And so a lot of my resources talk through all of these things, and I will have this conversation with you, but it's so you understand what exactly Social Security is looking for and understand that this is not an easy, simple process. It's not just this initial application. You have to do the one application, and then Social Security will send you additional forms. You have to make sure they get all your medical records. There's a lot of pieces to this process, and my job is to help you understand what all of those pieces are. My other analogy is this is like a really complicated game of Monopoly, that the rules are really hard to find. I know what the rules are, and I can help you navigate this game. And this is one of those things, it's not just you have this initial phone call, you never talk to me again. Call me throughout this process. So we're like, hey, okay, Social Security sent me this adult function report. Fantastic, I have a webinar for that. I can help you talk about that. Everything with a Social Security disability application has to be from the perspective of a bad day. We as humans, we want to live in the goodness. We want to focus on all the things we can do. A lot of this disability stuff is about the stuff we can't do. and planning for it and talking about it in that context while we can. But Social Security is one of those organizations, if you say anything like, oh, I wish I could still work, or I can still do this, I can still do that, they will take those little nuggets and deny you. You have to be truly brutally honest with something like a Social Security disability application. And that's really hard to do. I have one of my resources is a list of questions that I would ask all of my clients at hearing to help you talk about your symptoms and limitations better. One question Social Security loves to ask is, how long can you concentrate? That is the worst question on the face of the earth, because every single person in this room is going to say, I don't know, it depends. Is the subject matter interesting? Well, duh. So, my husband's an engineer. Can I listen to him talk about engineering stuff very long? Honestly, no. Don't tell him that. But we all have those things. And so a different way to ask about this stuff, a lot of us read books or we watch TV or movies. Can you watch a 2-hour movie and still follow along and tell me what happened when it's done? No. What about an hour-long TV show? What about a 30-minute TV show? What about a video on YouTube? Do you still read 300-page novels? No. What about a 100-page novel? No. What about short stories? What about things on the internet? Putting that level of detail and explaining those things, one, it shows change over time, which is really important, but it just really helps Social Security understand what's going on. So much of the disability process is paperwork. And the people who make the final decision, they don't actually ever see you. They're never going to see you. So you have to paint them a picture. Who would rather submit the equivalent of a Mona Lisa, or who would rather submit the stick figure drawing? No one ever answers because no one wants to submit a stick figure drawing. And it's not that people are purposely submitting stick figure drawings with their disability application, but it's because they don't understand the process, because it is so complicated. And Social Security, especially now, is going out of its way not to release information, not to publicize information. They've changed certain things that make it harder for families to help their loved one navigate the process. In the last year, Social Security changed one of their rules. Before, someone could submit an appointment of representative form as a friend or family member as long as they weren't getting paid, and Social Security could legally give them updates and talk to that person about the claim. Now you officially have to apply through the headquarters in Baltimore to be an official representative, wait all that time for that paperwork, and then you could help your family member. That's not realistic. That's not going to happen anymore. And what that means is you can call with your loved one to help them navigate some of these things, but that can get complicated. And so there are things in the process that are getting a little complex, but it's really important to have the background. And that's true with legal resources too. So I like to put this slide up here because when people ask, I need a lawyer for disability, and I'm like, what kind? There's 8 or 9 different kinds of lawyers up there that you could encounter in this process. Elder law are the ones that do estate planning. They do a lot of those things because in this country, God forbid you have a disability under the age of 65. Because you don't need those things. And unfortunately, that means there are a lot of resources people cannot access because there are a lot of age limits. 55 is that magic number. So if you're under 18, you can get things, or if you're over 55. But unfortunately, there are a lot of people in the middle who struggle. There's a lot of people who can't access legal aid for a lot of these things because of these age limits. And that's really unfortunate. But people assume elder law is for I don't know what people assume what elder law is for. But this is I don't even know anymore because I know too much. But it's for, getting a will, a trust, an estate, getting a durable power of attorney, just putting those things in place. And honestly, all of us should have that done. All of us should have that done. And the reason we should have it done is because we get to say what happens to our stuff. It gives you the most control over your processes and your life and how you want things to play out. I always talk about this with durable power of attorneys because people think they're signing their rights away. No, you're just saying who can speak for you, who can help you navigate this, exactly what decisions they can make and how they can make them, but it doesn't give up your decision-making power. With a durable power of attorney, you only give up your decision-making power once a physician deems you legally incapacitated, and they have to sign off on that. It has to be a signed affidavit, and it has to be submitted to the state court. And now are you just that's a lot of steps. You're not just giving your decision-making power away. I also like to joke that rich people use power of attorneys all the time to be like, yes, finish my business, Jeeves. I'm going to Europe. I'll be back. We have a gross misunderstanding of what power of attorney documents actually do and what you're giving away. You're not giving away anything. You're empowering yourself and saying exactly what you want and how to protect yourself. But yeah, this is a lot of different attorneys. And I don't want everybody in this room, or anyone in this room, to have to work with all these different attorneys because it's a lot of stuff going on. But there are a lot of different parts of this process. And so it's really important to understand that disability really isn't just Social Security. It's all of these different things. And one of the things I can do is, though, because I don't directly represent anyone anymore, I can provide appropriate legal referrals based on what you need. Not in every situation, but I really try to go above and beyond. And I try to use whatever network I have to help people find what's important to them and what they need. Yes. What is ERISA? ERISA, those are those private insurance claims. So that's private short-term or long-term disability, life insurance. So that's if you, let's say you have employer-provided benefits and you get denied your long-term disability policy, you could use an ERISA attorney to help apply that or appeal that. And that is one of those things, unfortunately, I don't know why, but if you're applying for short-term and long-term disability, you have to do those applications on your own first before an attorney will help. Just the way that system is set up, there are certain things you have to do on your own first before an attorney could come in and help, and that's just the standard practice. I should have written out what ERISA means, and I'm sorry that I didn't. It's another one of those alphabet soup things. But essentially, they deal with the private disability benefits, and a Social Security disability attorney deals with the public disability benefits. Now, if you have issues with your state-provided benefits, like an OPERS or an IPERS, I have no idea what attorney that would be. Now I have to go find that out. Oh my gosh, I have another attorney I can add to the list because we don't have enough. And possibly if you were a veteran and you also need VA benefits, that's another attorney I could add to the list. So this is a really long list. And then I can also help locate legal aid. Legal aid is a fantastic resource, but it's also hit or miss because there are the financial income criteria, but legal aid is not a national resource. It's state and county specific. So some counties can help with Social Security while other counties can't. Some counties can help with guardianship and other counties can't, or there's age restrictions. So you have to look at your specific county legal aid to find out exactly what resources they provide and if you're eligible, which I know is a lot of work and it's not necessarily the easiest thing to find. And I'm sorry, I wish there was an easier way to do it. I did not come up with the naming conventions and how people do searches and findings and things. And I know I've mentioned this, but I'm happy to work with other professionals outside of HD to help train them and provide them resources. I've definitely had a number of attorneys reach out to me over the years just to be to have the conversation because they wanted to represent their client to the best of their ability. And I'm always happy to have that conversation, provide them resources, give them samples, help in whatever way I can to help the families, either in their court cases or just provide general information, or get them roped into this beautiful community so they can help everybody directly too. I keep asking all of my law school friends, do you have a relevant law background? I don't know if I can use you yet, but I'm coming for you. And then I do what I can to help provide local resources. We have a lot of wonderful, I know I mentioned the chapter social workers, and I will defer to them in a lot of situations, but I will. I was on the phone with someone who mentioned that she had hearing aids, and literally while I was on the call, that has nothing to do with HD, I looked up her hearing resources in the state and provided them on the call because I just don't know how to not help people. But finding state-specific resources, understanding that certain states like California and New Jersey have specific state disability benefits that you can get. Understanding the public assistance programs, Medicaid, SNAP, utility assistance, things like temporary assistance for needing families, helping families walk through those different options and who you would contact to apply for those things. So what does all this mean? What does all this look like? So I have some examples. So an adult parent called me with concerns that their adult child had HD. The child did not have diagnosis, they had not been getting medical care, and they had not applied for any benefits. I asked where they were living. I connected them with a center of excellence in their state. They were able to get their child in. They got a diagnosis. They started getting medical care. I connected them. I walked them through the Social Security disability process. Their child got approved. I helped the parent get connected with support groups so they could get support while they were helping navigate their child through all of this. And they have reached a point where as much as you can, they are thriving, and they've created a support system, and like they're getting the care that they need, and they're getting the benefits that they need. And this took 2 to 3 years. This was many conversations and many phone calls over a 2 to 3 year period to get them the things that they needed, to just be a voice when someone needed. I just was there to listen, because so many times when so many people call me, they're explaining HD, and I'm like, you don't have to do that. You don't have to do that today. You don't have to apologize. You don't have to say any of those things. I understand. And we can just talk about what you need. You don't have to advocate for yourself today. You can just be you, and we can just take care of this one step at a time. And that is such a big thing for so many people, because when you have HD, when your loved one has HD, every day of the rest of your life, you are advocating, and that will take a toll on you. And so most days, I just want to be that person. I want to be that safe space. So whatever you need, I will do my best to get it for you. Not related to the presentation, but I was asking my coworkers what they needed help with yesterday. So I pretended I was an RDO for the South and helped one of my coworkers with their meet and greet. Like, I just do what I can. But another example, and this is something that happens a lot too, like a 26-year-old calls with questions about insurance planning because they are considering predictive testing, and they ask if there's anything else to consider. So I walk them through genetic rights, disability rights, the most important kinds of insurance benefits, let them ask their questions, and then I always try to talk about like legal and financial planning, and long-term care insurance always comes up. So what are alternative to long-term care insurance? What are things like, what are investment options, money market accounts, high yield savings accounts? Just trying to give them a good overview of information so they have enough. And then like, hey, if you do get genetic testing done and you have questions after your test results, you can always come back and ask additional questions. Like, you can always come back if you need anything else. Sorry, I was just checking the time. I'm glad I'm starting to get this more, and the reason I get this more is because I brought this up as an issue in the first place. I was like, hey, this is something we're not talking about in the community. This is something we need to talk about. How do we address this? What are things we can talk about more? Because the reality is we cannot change things. We cannot advocate for things if they continue to live in the shadow. And I know it's so hard. Like, I am asking people to talk about some of the most difficult things that they deal with. I am asking people to trust me and to trust the process and to trust that we are going to fight for you. And so the fact that everyone is here today and like I still get to do what I'm doing and people believe in this program and this program really does help people, that is a lot. But it's hard. And just every single day, every single year, I'm going to keep chugging along and making new resources. So I have some resources on the table, but a lot of the things I have learned so much from convention. The veterans benefit webinar I made was because I had a conversation with somebody at convention. I did the insurance planning and predictive testing handout because a social worker asked for it. I really do listen to the community. When I started, all I did was Social Security disability, and it has grown into all of this other stuff because I sat and I listened and I learned how much the community needs help with all of these things because we don't talk about it. We don't talk about any of these things. We don't talk about this stuff in high school. I was really fortunate that my first job did insurance planning and stuff, and they sat me down and they talked to me about this stuff. I was 27. I mean, I was lucky that I was just 27 and someone had that conversation with me. Oh yeah, but I want us to be able to have these conversations more. So if my resources make it easier for you to start that conversation, that is the whole point of all of this. And then other common conversations, like I get asked a lot, when should I stop working? So a lot of times this looks like someone calls in, they're having trouble with work, they're concerned they're gonna get fired, and they wanna know the next steps. So then in that conversation, I'll ask them questions like what their job is, what they're struggling with. Is there a way to ask for accommodations? Is accommodations the next step? Do they have, are they in a field where a step down job is a possibility? I like to use nursing as an example because nursing is really a good profession where there are a lot more step down job options. Like if you're an ER nurse that's super fast paced, could you transfer to a position that is just a desk position, or you're just answering patient calls? Does that fit with you better? Because my goal for anybody who calls me is, if you want to keep working, I want to help you work as long as possible. If you are so stressed out and having panic attacks and can't drive to work anymore, okay, then we're going to talk about how, you know what, it probably is time to start the disability application process and what that looks like, and connecting people with things like the Job Accommodation Network, and connecting people with a Social Security disability attorney if this gets too much to manage. But I always ask, do you have short-term or long-term disability benefits through your employer? What does your support system look like? And then we talk through different options, and then I give them their steps. If after the conversation it comes to, I don't really think I can work anymore, okay, well then I need you to look at your short-term and long-term disability benefits. I need you to ask HR about getting those applications and starting that process, working with your doctor. Because if you have benefits through your employer, I'm always going to tell you to take those first, and then we'll get to Social Security second. Because it's a lot easier to get approved for short-term and long-term disability than Social Security, so you can have that income coming in while you wait for your Social Security disability application. And we go through all of those steps, using your vacation time, what FMLA means, all of those things, so you can have enough information to make the right decision for you. My job is to inform, so you can make the best decision for yourself. And I know I say that all the time. Yeah, but it's a process. I always try to, my goal is to help people walk through that process. And I hope you feel more confident about the process, and you know that you can come to the disability program for a lot of things. And I'm always open to suggestions and recommendations, and it's a lot. And I'm sad that I couldn't show you the blog today and that we need to get that fixed. But the blog is a really great place to start, because it's just little snippets of a lot of different information about the process, and it's a good library of resources. Are there any questions? Yes. The Job Accommodation Network. Are they a nonprofit? They're a really great organization who they help you, they have resources for you if you need to ask for accommodations. They have resources for employers. If you have employees with accommodations, they have specific information for Huntington's disease. They have sample letters. They help walk you through the process of how to request accommodations, because that can be really overwhelming. And every time I have that conversation with someone, I'm like, do you know what your process is? Have you talked to your HR department? Do you have an HR department? Do you know how they do this? And most people say, I have no idea. And to be fair, it can be hard. I struggled when I was using my short-term disability for maternity leave. These processes aren't simple, even if, to be fair, if you're pregnant, you kind of are cognitively impaired. Let's be real. My brain has not recovered. But if you're in a stressful situation, it is that much harder to do anything. And so I always tell people, especially with work accommodations or asking HR things, always blind CC your personal email, so you have a copy of it always, or CC a loved one or someone else who you want to be involved in that conversation. You can have your spouse have that conversation with HR with you. You can have your support system. Those are rights you have access to in this process. So also knowing what your rights are throughout this process and who can be involved and how to go about all of these things. And it's a lot of things. I know it's a lot of things. It's a lot of things. Well, thank you. Thank you so much for coming. I hope this is helpful. Please say good things about the disability program and refer anybody who needs help. I'm always here. And I have some resources at the front. These are also on the mission table. This is my Entering the Workforce booklet. This is a really phenomenal resource for it was designed for young people, but anybody who has questions about 401ks, IRAs, what benefits they should be taking advantage of from their employer, what they mean, and why they're particularly relevant to the HD community. But I love this booklet. This is one of the things I'm most proud of, and it's a fantastic resource. We have a lot of them, so if you want to take extras to give out to people, feel free to do so.